This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
What's happening, my brother? How are you doing?
What up? You're in LeBron James' house in Akron? Is that what you said?
Yes. I am. I snuck in.
Okay.
I'm a squatter.
There
He
you
doesn't
go.
know.
Yeah.
But if I can hang on for 8 more days, Ohio law means I own the house and he can't move me out. So
Okay, there you go.
don't tell anybody. Sean and I are hiding here in LeBron's house in Akron.
Sweet.
They're away. LeBron is wherever Messi's playing. So, it's we got the house to ourselves. So
Or he's been taken on a trip around the world by Anthony Davis after he signed that extension.
yeah. Wow, that's Mama, don't let your babies grow up to be anything else but NBA players.
I'm not kidding.
Holy shit, that is some money, dude. They're throwing around. All right, some guaranteed money too on top of all of that, even if you're fragile like him. All right. Let's go over the fragile state of the offensive line for the Dolphins, because I saw some of the reactions and the practice reports and all that stuff, and I think more is about the offensive line than anything else. I'm really not worried about the receivers or the quarterback or any of the thing. Or like I was talking before you came on, I know what the tight ends are going to be. They're going to be serviceable, is what they're going to be. That's if you expect anything more than that, then that means Higgy or the other guy became
Sauber, Durham, Smythe,
Tanner Connor. I mean, Tanner Connor or Higgy became something special or something. You know what I mean? But talk to us. What did you see today, especially on offense?
Yeah, I'm going to start off by saying, I wouldn't hold my breath when it comes to the tight end position. So a whole lot of messiness on offense. It was just completely discombobulated. And today, like, the offensive line's been a concern. I don't want to say every practice, but close to it. And today was everything in the offense was disjointed. Got a couple of guys who were slipping while making cuts. You got a Tua pick where Tyreek Hill completely stopped his route down the left sideline, which means clear, obvious miscommunication. Tua thought Hill was going to continue. Hill thought he was supposed to come back, whatever. I mean, led to an easy pick by Noah. But the biggest issue, again, was the offensive line. Too many battles lost up front. And it's not like that practice a week ago where there's a ton of blitzes and either the Dolphins didn't pick them up because of failure or because that wasn't what the practice session was designed to do, or that period. Today there was very little blitzing. It was, again, too many battles lost up front. And there's not a whole lot of guys up front among the offensive linemen who can say, don't look at me. I was perfect. Liam Eichenberg continues to struggle. Connor Williams didn't have a great day. I think Austin Jackson got dinged one time. I think Robert Hunt got dinged one time. I mean, it's not good. The one caveat that needs to be mentioned is Teron Armstead didn't practice, as no one should have expected him to.
Which brings balance to the world, obviously.
All right. He makes such an insane difference on that offensive line. And to me, my level of concern would reach DEFCON 3 or 4. I forget if it's the higher the number, the worse it is, or the lower number. I forget. But if the offensive line continues to struggle like this with Teron Armstead in the lineup, I would be raising red flags all over the place. Right now, it's not nearly as good as I would like it to be. But Armstead's is playing very, very, very little.
How much can you tell me professionalism is playing into all of this? Because Connor Williams has been bitching about money. Well, he's not playing consistent. Getting beat sometimes, bad snaps, had a couple already. Robert Hunt, another guy that's up for money. He's gotten a lot of praise, hasn't been playing well. I've been talking about it on the show the last couple of days, that there will be tremors about the offensive line. Nothing like to over panic about, but there are some things to be concerned about. And so I go look at Christian Wilkins, and he deserves to get paid, but He plays his ass off, and there's no drop off. There's no inconsistencies. And so, you're Connor Williams, you need your money. You're Robert Hunt, you need your money. But then is the money on your mind right now? And so I wonder if some of the struggles I know what Austin Jackson's problems are. He just can't be consistent. You know what I mean?
But he hasn't been he hasn't been terrible. I don't think Austin Jackson's been the biggest issue. I don't think he's been
no, but he still has his plays that you're like,
sure.
And that's their concern in the building, that he flashes good, and then he flashes like, yo, do you even know how to play this position? And that's where they sit back and they go, what's going on? And so I know that they're concerned overall with Austin's, consistency. And Eichenberg, obviously, his problem has always been about consistency. But with Connor and with Hunt, you just wonder, the inconsistencies, are they coming from any financial concerns or squabbles?
No, I'm not buying it, to be honest. I'm not buying it for a second. And again, I get the Christian Wilkins comparison, but let's start with the fact that Christian Wilkins is a better defensive tackle than Robert Hunt's a guard, even though I like Robert Hunt, or Connor Williams is a center. That's number one. Number two, you're putting plays on tape every practice. Now, could their mind be wandering when they're away from the facility? Sure. I think when they're on the practice field, all they're worried about is the guy across from them not making them look bad.
Okay.
So no, I'm not buying that for a millisecond. And the other part of it too is if the contracts with that much on their mind, they could always hold in. It's not like, probably not like either one of them is getting benched if for some reason they have a quote unquote ankle injury or whatever. They don't want to practice for a few days. Not like the Dolphins are swimming in depth along the offensive line. They're just going through a rough patch. More so Connor Williams and Robert Hunt, who I think overall had a pretty solid camp. I have not been impressed by what I've seen from Connor Williams, but I'm not buying that. No, like you said when you report to camp, I made my statement, during the offseason. Now I'm showing up for camp, and it is what it is.
Okay, still making a statement. It's a different kind of statement, but he's still making a statement. So,
he's not helping himself in contract negotiations, that's for sure. Whereas Wilkins is like, holy crap! I mean, it's been a while since I've seen a player have that kind of training camp.
He's just an impeccable person. That's all. He's just a professional through and through. Like the guy that just got inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He's just one of those dudes that is just going to bring it every day, no matter what the hell it is. You know what I mean? And
again, he's more physically gifted than the other guys. I don't blame professionalism on the struggles that certain guys are having on the other.
No, but I think part of being great is being able to that you can turn it on all the time. Whereas the guys that aren't great, they can't turn it on all the time because they got to hope everything kind of falls into place that day so they can be great. These are the kind of people that just kind of dictate what goes on. You know what I'm saying? And that's just, there's only a couple, Joe Thomas is going to dictate what goes on, when and I think just some of those guys are like that. I think Christian Wilkins is like that. The problem is we have this thing that we're in love with sacks, and we think that that's the only way to measure somebody when it's just not fair when they contribute in so many other different ways. And I think, with Zach Thomas, kind of the same thing too. If he was a linebacker that got way more sacks, he probably would have gotten more love right away. But being the guy that had the most tackles wasn't enough for you. You know what I'm saying? It's just weird the way things are. Sometimes we view things differently and we judge them differently, and it's not fair. And I think with Christian Wilkins, I think a lot of us are hesitant to just say this guy's a great player. Period.
Well, we've had this discussion before. For me, I haven't felt him enough during the regular season the past couple of years, in the past game. In camp, he's impossible not to notice every single solitary practice in every single department. Now, will that translate into games? If that translates into games, I mean, pay the man his money right now.
I think it's translated to games. It's just different the way he does it. You know what I mean? And I've also said I think his sack numbers will go up this year because now you have a coordinator that's going to help him because the secondary hopefully is hopefully you have no more injuries. If you got Cater and Cam, I think you can get away with that side while Jalen's out. I'm not that worried. But I think if you start getting the pass rush the way you're supposed to, I think it'll open it up for him a little bit more.
Well, let me go on record as saying I'm not all about sacks especially when it comes to an interior defensive lineman. I'm about affecting the quarterback, which again, for me, not quite enough in previous years. In camp, he is moving the pocket every single solitary snap, it seems like. And also would throw out, don't discount Eli Apple when you're talking about cornerbacks.
Yeah, no, and Eli's it's great depth. It was a hell of a move, at this point. All right, so the other guy is Elijah Campbell, bro. He continues to shine, right? Every practice, he's making a play or two or something like that. This guy is another guy that could be the guy starting next to Holland.
He's a dark horse kind of guy. I mean, Vic Fangio spoke to the media before practice Friday, and brutal assessments in terms of like how direct he was all over the place. And he was basically saying, I don't know who's starting next to Javon Holland. And I absolutely would not discount the possibility of it being Elijah Campbell.
And by the way, that's the answer he's supposed to give. Nobody has become Javon Holland next to him. Nobody is X. Nobody's Jalen Ramsey at that spot. So nobody's like, I like Brandon Jones a lot. I'm a Brandon Jones fan. And I saw him turning the corner last year as a better cover guy and all that before he got injured. But in this scheme, oh, doggy, you got to be elite in your coverage. And because you got to be so multiple and you got to be able to move around. So that I think to me, that's where the challenge is for Brandon. And that's why it opens it up for Elijah. And then, once Trill gets back, is Trill going to go more to safety?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be interesting because
those two guys have an advantage over Brandon because they're cornerbacks by trade.
Right. Yes. Yeah, you're right.
Brandon not being able to get back into the full swing of things also is not helping. And obviously the Dolphins don't want to rush him. He's coming back from an ACL, but that's not helping him in making his case to be the starter opposite Holland.
And if I'm correct, I think one of the things I don't worry about with Trill is like I did with Bobby, with McCain. I don't worry about his size. He actually has the size to thump a little bit there at safety. Where with McCain, you knew he was a smart guy, you knew he was a pro and all that, but you were always like, dude, he's thin, bro, his body and all that. And in the end, he blew out his shoulder because he wasn't built to be a safety, bro. It's not his fault. He is what he is. The Bryce Thompson kid has rolled over from minicamp into that he's starting to show something. I'm not saying that he's Nick Needham and Trill Williams and Cater Kohu and the next, hey, wow, Sealer, who the hell is this guy? That kind of shit. But
you notice him out there. He had two nice plays today. He had a sack on the blitz, and he had a great coverage on Jalen Waddle that pretty much forced an incompletion. And he's had a couple of good practices here and there. He's going to make the Dolphins think long and hard about making their decisions in the secondary.
I've talked about how that experiment off tight end, because obviously they've got Croft and they've got Salbert and they've got Smythe. So those are the blockers, solid tight end catchers, all that. But then it's the other guys, the two guys that are more dynamic. Now Higgins seems to have a good play and then an off play and a good play and an off play. So how are you seeing that young man? Because obviously the other kid's nowhere to be found because he's dealing with an injury.
No, correct. No, and John Embry, the tight ends coach, also spoke before. All the assistant coaches spoke before practice Friday, and I asked specifically about Tanner Connor in terms of like for him falling behind because he's been out, and Embry was talking about how excited he is about because of the progress he made last year. He hasn't practiced yet, so I don't know. Can we realistically count on him being a factor? I wish I could tell you I see Elijah Higgins as a guy with a lot of potential to make an impact as a rookie. I can't.
You can practice squad right now, right?
Yeah.
See, the problem is we only have 3 games now.
Correct.
So basically, it's 2 for all the fringe guys, because you're going to have your third game where they're going to play into the third quarter. So there's not a lot of time for you to really assess the other guys. So you really are down to 2 preseason games where you're going to like see the backups and then the guys that are trying to, hang on to the fringe. And then these weeks here, dude, if you don't shine now to kind of set yourself up, you're not going to get the reps you need in games in order to, kind of, show your wares. And that's where I know I can see what the coach is trying to do, but right now that experiment isn't coming through right now.
No, and they have 2 weeks of joint practices coming up against the Falcons and the Texans the next 2 weeks, and it's huge for young guys, as significant as the preseason games will be. So those guys have to flash in those practice sessions.
How was that Robbie Chosen interview? He fills up that sheet with a lot of quotes, doesn't he?
I'll be honest with you. I was not in the room. I was actually in the media room typing up my practice report at the time he spoke.
I felt so bad for you guys because it's like 1 or 2 word answers.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think from reading the transcript, though, it was basically, dude, listen, he doesn't want to make any waves. He's not getting a ton of reps necessarily, but he's made things happen the last 2 practices. I've made the point the Dolphins by now should know what he is, what he can do. And
do you have a bobbling catch today?
Yeah, well, no, it wasn't. Yeah, it was kind of though he ran a slant, and I couldn't tell whether the DB popped it up with getting a hand in there or whether Chosen didn't make the catch cleanly, but it wound up going up. There was a second tip up and maybe even a third, and then he caught it, and then he kind of had a clear path to the end zone. So maybe it's a long touchdown. Maybe he would have been tackled earlier, but he's been a factor the past couple of days.
All right. I'm just wondering with him because, man, that kid, he's got some skill sets. There's no doubt about that. But if he doesn't turn the corner quickly, then he's going to fall by the wayside because of what I'd said. You don't get a ton of reps to prove yourself, and that's a position where they're actually loaded. So, what do you see in Berrios?
I love Berrios, and he's
okay.
To me, I got 4 locks on the roster, one of which is because of contract status, and that's Cedric Wilson. Hill, Waddle, Berrios, Cedric Wilson. Ezukama's been sidelined for a few days. I think he makes the roster, but I think to call him a complete lock at this point might not be right. River Craycraft hasn't. I know Mike McDaniel loves him, but he hasn't done necessarily a ton in training camp. And then you have Chosen also in the equation. At this point, I'd find it hard to believe how you can justify in terms of talent keeping Craycraft and Ezukama as your 5 and 6 and cutting Robbie Chosen. To me, I don't see that as making any sense.
Well, special teams will also play into this. So if you can,
I don't believe Ezukama wasn't on the team. Was active for like 1 game. Is he a special teams guy from his time in Texas Tech? I don't know.
Gimmick guy, I can see him doing some end arounds or something like that in short yardage because he's a big body. But I don't think he's a special teamer. He's certainly not a flyer or anything like that.
No, I don't think he is either.
No.
So I don't know. And Craycraft, I know can return punts, but I don't recall seeing him in coverage. I'd have to look at the number of snaps.
All right, what do you got going on in SI so folks can check you out, my brother?
Well, we wrapped up everything. I did the practice observation. Omar had his stock up, stock down. Had a good look at the defensive tackle Marvin Wilson, who the Dolphins worked out on Saturday morning in light of their lack of depth along the defensive line. The Mike McDaniel media session highlights, and then we'll have some Zach stuff a little bit already that I have had. So
there you go.
All over it as always, and I've just put out a call for questions for a mailbag. So
there you go. Send them into his bag. Follow him on Twitter at Poupart NFL. Alan, as always, thank you, my brother. We'll catch up.
Safe travels when you come back.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate you. We will be back on Monday. EJD Construction, call Eric 305-433-4843. And they are reliable. They've been at this for a long time. AAA rating from the Better Business Bureau. Not a handyman. We're talking about custom home construction and major home remodeling. Dade and Broward counties only. Call ejdconstruction.com. 305-433-4843.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.